Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's council meeting. This is Monday, May 11th, and we've got a fairly long agenda, and we have some folks in the gallery too, so welcome, everyone. I'd invite everyone to join us in singing O Canada. Thank you. And I'm going to invite Councillor Bell to give us our land acknowledgement.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and good afternoon, everyone. We would like to acknowledge that we are meeting on the traditional lands and treaty territory of the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, which includes the Chippewas of Nawash Unceded First Nation and the Chippewas of Saugeen First Nation. We also recognize the Métis, whose ancestors shared this land and these waters. We extend our gratitude to all Anishinaabe and Métis people and their descendants, past, present, and future, who continue to care for and inhabit these lands and tend these waters.
Thank you, Councillor. And I'll just invite everyone to join me in a moment of silent reflection. Thank you. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest? Deputy Mayor?
Mr. Mayor, good afternoon, everyone. I will need to declare on item 7A, the second public participation presentation, as Mr. Lamb is a member of my campaign team.
Good. Any others? If not, just if it occurs to you during the meeting, please bring it forward at that time. Announcements. Deputy Mayor, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much again, Mr. Mayor. Yes, there's always something going on in Meaford, and I just wanted to share today that the Riverside Hall breakfasts are back. Yesterday was the first one of the season for Mother's Day. There were about 125 in attendance, and the next one will be June the 14th. So please mark that on your calendars for $15. It's the best breakfast around.
Councillor Uhrig.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. A couple of things. One, in the library on Saturday, there was a grand opening. So Meaford Culture Foundation does an initiative, and this was initially presented through Collingwood. It's called Magic of the Children in the Arts, and we sponsor a art teacher who comes in and teaches basically grades 3, 7, and 8. And then what they do is they take that collection of works and they do a gallery presentation at the library. So if you go in right now from May 9th to 24th, you will see the works of all these students. So it was very exciting and the kids loved it, and it was a great reception that we had that day. So that worked well. And if I may, a second one is that tonight, actually, so Meaford International Film Festival is going to be celebrating its 20th anniversary this year. And we're doing something a little unique this year. So TIFF to MIFF it's the TIFF film circuit. So what we're doing is a lead-in up to September MIFF is one Monday in every month, there's going to be a film at Meaford Hall The first one tonight is called Coln, Koln 75. It's at 7 p.m. People can still buy the subscription series for $70 for the whole 4 films, or they can get each film individually. But it's going to be just kind of a lead and a celebration of all things MIF, but this is something Meaford Hall, we used to do films in the hall and then that kind of ended. So this is, Meaford Hall staff has been very excited to try and get something back in there. So watch for dates coming, but the first one is this evening.
Thank you. I don't see any more announcements on our side. What about your side, CIO Everett? Oh, go ahead, Doreen.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm excited to announce Jenna Davison as our new Manager of Transportation and Fleet Services. She has been with the team for over 10 years, and she has built an extensive knowledge of road operations and municipal services, making her well prepared to step into her new role.
Good to hear. Thank you. We just had a discussion this morning and wondered who to call. So thank you. Okay. If there's nothing else, then we'll move on to public participation. Members of the public are always encouraged to provide council with their comments and questions. Presentations must be prearranged with legislative services before the agenda is released and are limited to 10 minutes. If a member of the public wishes to make a deputation on items on the council agenda or to ask a public question, they may do so either in person at the council chambers or remotely via Zoom. Members of the public wishing to make a deputation or ask a public question must register in advance with legislative services by 10 in the morning on the meeting day. And you can do that by contacting Deputy Clerk at meaford.ca or calling 519-538-1060, extension 1100. An email with access information will be sent to those who register for remote participation. Deputations are limited to 5 minutes, and public questions are limited to 2 minutes. The public may watch this meeting live via the Municipality of Meaford's YouTube channel. It's www.meaford.ca/YouTube. And we do have a couple of presentations this afternoon. And I'm going to introduce 3 ladies who are with us remotely, Maya, Emily, and Heather, who are all Master of Planning candidates at the University of Guelph. And Public Art Master Plan is their topic. Maya, can you hear me?
Hello, thank you for
Hi.
letting me join you today.
So go right ahead.
Amazing. So we just wanted to start off today by thanking everyone for giving us the opportunity to present ideas to you today. My name is Maya Billick, and over the past few months, along Emily Jeffries, Heather Ding, we've been working on the Municipality of Meaford's Public Art Master Plan in collaboration with Denise McCarl and other municipal staff who have provided us valuable guidance throughout the process. Next slide, please. The goal of this plan is to provide Meaford with a long-term framework for how public art can be planned, supported, and integrated through the municipality. Rather than focusing on an individual project, our plan looks at the bigger idea, including governance, funding, maintenance, commissioning and decommissioning processes, and key opportunity areas across the community. Next slide, please. A major focus throughout this project was making sure the recommendations felt realistic and connected to Meaford's identity and character as a community. Our studies focus on places throughout Meaford, particularly in downtown areas, the waterfront, parks, and trail systems. Our approach combined policy review, best practice research, site observation, and community engagement. We reviewed examples from other municipalities, existing planning documents, and how public spaces are currently being used within Meaford. Community engagement was also very helpful in identifying what residents valued most about the community and where they see opportunity for future public art. This is our survey that we sent out through Facebook and had posted around the municipality, so please feel free to scan through it if you're interested. Next slide, please. One thing that became very clear throughout this project is that public art is much more than just aesthetics. Public art can help strengthen local identity, activate underutilized spaces, support local artists, and improve overall visitor experience. It also plays an important role in placemaking by creating spaces that feel memorable, welcome, and reflective of local culture and history. The master plan also recognizes that public art can take many forms, including murals, sculptures, functional art like benches or bike racks, temporary installations, trail-based art, and community-led projects. Next slide, please.
Okay, hi there. I'm Emily Jeffries. So what we heard, so through our survey and stakeholder interviews, several clear themes emerge. First, there is strong support for public art, and most residents want to see more of it, while recognizing its role in strengthening community identity and tourism. Second was location. People identified the downtown, waterfront, parks, and trails as priorities, but emphasized that public art should be distributed across the entire municipality, including rural areas such as Annan, Leith, and Bognor. We also heard that public art should reflect Meaford's identity, especially its natural environment, agricultural roots, and local history. There was a strong interest in community-driven approaches, including local artist involvement and opportunities for public participation. And finally, many noted the need for better planning and policy, with concerns around site selection, transparency, and long-term maintenance, highlighting the importance of a more structured approach. Next slide.
Thank you, Emily. I'm Heather, and I'm going to talk to you guys about the strategic direction that we have for this master plan. So, the strategic direction is centered around 5 key themes for our project, including celebrating Meaford's natural environment, and as well as highlighting local heritage and identity. Also, we look to incorporate Indigenous perspectives and strengthen community life through placemaking and connectivity. Also, we aim to support creativity and contemporary expression to keep public art fresh and relevant. Next slide, please. The public art will concentrate in 4 key community spaces. The waterfront will feature landmark and interpretive works inspired by Georgian Bay, while the downtown core will include murals and streetscape improvements that reflects Meaford's heritage character. Also, gateways, parks, and trails will also incorporate public art to create welcoming and engaging spaces. Next page, please.
Okay, so vision. So our vision for public art in Meaford is to enhance public spaces, celebrate local identity, and create meaningful experiences for residents and visitors. This means moving beyond standalone pieces and integrating art into everyday spaces, such as parks, trails, downtown streets, and community facilities. Success looks like public art being visible across the municipality, reflecting Meaford's unique character and contributing to vibrant, engaging spaces. It also means community members feel represented and involved, while public art supports tourism and local economic activity. Ultimately, public art becomes part of everyday life in Meaford, and not just something you visit, but something that you experience. Next slide, please.
Moving on to our key recommendations, the plan identifies several recommendations. One of the big ones is the creation of a public arts advisory panel that could work alongside council and municipal staff to help guide future projects, review proposals, and support a transparent selection process. The plan encourages incorporating public art into future municipal initiatives early on, particularly within parks, streetscapes improvement, and redevelopment projects, so that art becomes more part of the planning process rather than an afterthought. Another important direction is continuing to support local artists and strengthening partnerships within the community. So community groups, businesses, and cultural organizations across Meaford. All these recommendations are intended to create a more coordinated and achievable long-term approach to public art. Next slide, please.
Thank you, Maya. So, funding. Funding will come from a range of sources for our project. The municipal capital projects will include dedicated funding for public art, while provincial, federal, and foundation grants will support placemaking and tourism initiatives. Partnerships with local businesses and tourism organizations will provide sponsorships and donations. And at last, the community fundraising will help support projects and strong local interest. Next slide, please.
Our plan also identifies several opportunities where public art could have strong impact within Meaford. Some of the priority recommendations include park entrance features, trail-based public art walks, downtown alleyway activation projects, temporary pop-up installations, and functional public art integrated into everyday public spaces. There was also a strong potential identified along the waterfront for a future feature landmark public art piece that could contribute to Meaford's identity and visitor experience. Many of these recommendations are also very scalable, meaning projects could be as big or as small as needed, depending on funding, partnership, and community interest. Next slide, please.
So overall recommendations, to achieve the vision that I mentioned, we identified several overall recommendations. First, establish a coordinated public art program with clear policies and processes for decision making and site selection. Second, support local artists by prioritizing local talent, creating opportunities for emerging artists, and strengthening community partnerships. We also recommend embedding equity and accessibility to ensure public art is inclusive for all residents. Strategically focus on key areas such as downtown waterfront parks and rural communities while maintaining a balanced distribution. And finally, we draw from successful examples like Melbourne's laneways and Copenhagen's Superkillen, which highlight the value of flexible, integrated approaches. I have a few examples on there. So together, these steps create a more cohesive, inclusive, and impactful public art program for Meaford. Next slide.
So, how this actually happens, the plan outlines several commissioning approaches, including open calls or RFPs, invited competition, direct commissioning, and community-based projects. This allows the municipality flexibility depending on the scale and the goal of each project. And the proposed art selection panel would help review submissions and ensure these projects are aligning with the goals of both the plan and the character of the community. Next slide, please.
Let's look at the management maintenance for this master plan. So the collection will include all municipally managed public art, both temporary and permanent, while remaining aligned with heritage and conservation guidelines. A digital inventory will also track artworks and support regular maintenance as well as annual inspections. Also, we will provide clear policies for installation, care, insurance, and deaccessioning. All of these above will help manage the collection through the art, through its full life cycle of the art. Next page, please. So the implementation will roll out in phases. Short-term priorities includes establishing the public art committee, adopting the master plan, and creating an inventory. And at last, we would like to launch a quick win project for the first phase. Over time, the focus will shift towards larger public art projects, including stronger partnerships and expanded programmings, such as galleries, tours, and artist initiatives in the long term. Next slide, please.
Overall, this plan is intended to provide Meaford with a flexible and realistic framework for how public art can continue to grow alongside the community over time. The recommendations are designed to support local identity, strengthen public spaces, and encourage community partnership, as well as creating opportunities for both residents and visitors to engage with Meaford in new ways. We really appreciate the opportunity to work on this project alongside Denise and other municipal staff, and we really hope the plan provides a strong foundation for future public art initiatives within the municipality. Thank you again for your time, and we'd be happy to answer any of your questions.
Okay, thank you very much, ladies. Questions from council? Councillor Urick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you very much for your presentation. Very comprehensive, the master plan. It's really appreciated. A lot of work went into it. I had the pleasure of sitting down with Emily when this was happening, when she was first researching this as a member of the Meaford Culture Association. This falls right under kind of our foundation. This falls right into our kind of mandate. To see the work that's come out of it is really, really encouraging. And it dovetails nicely because we actually do have planned and budgeted this year is the downtown and harbor master plan. So this hopefully will be a large component of that. And ironically, when you talked about setting up a mural, we'd actually do have a mural that was moved and will be reset up at the harbor somewhere down there. So hopefully we even have a bit of a head start on this. But I just wanted to take the time to thank you for putting in the time and the effort that you did to present this. Ironically, this is our last year of council, and this will be something for next year to next year's term to look at. But hopefully this will be implemented and realized, because this could be really valuable for our tourism and just for beautification of our town. Thank you very much.
Who's next? Councillor Greenfield?
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, ladies, for your presentation. Very interesting. You went through a lot of material quickly, and that was quite an accomplishment in itself. The question I have, how do you, you have to forgive me, when I think of artwork, I think primarily of paintings of some description. How do you mix in artwork and paintings with a beautiful natural environment such as we have? We want them to strengthen each other, to augment each other, but how do you do that without taking away from one or the other? Can you help me on that?
Absolutely. Thank you, Counselor, for your question. So this is a big thing that we were looking into as well throughout the process of our research on how to kind of make public art blend with the natural environment or blend within the community. And that's why a lot of the different suggestions that we have include not just things like murals or paintings, but functional public art pieces. Public art can be benches, street lighting, anything along those lines as well. So it's easier to integrate those kind of items within the municipality, opposed to just putting random pieces of artwork or photos throughout the community that would kind of take away from that heritage and that feeling that we're trying to achieve. Does that answer your question?
Councillor Forder?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you, and just to echo the other councillors' feedback, very much appreciate this presentation. It's got my mind going in a bunch of different directions. But during the community engagement portion of this process, I'm sure you receive a lot of similar comments, but I'd like to hear from you. Was there any type of feedback or comments that you found the most surprising or the most unusual? Maybe you could just share an anecdote with us, please. Thank you.
Yeah, Emily, you could go ahead since you did the oh sorry, Maya, you could go ahead since you did receive some interesting and surprising answers from the survey.
Yeah, I'm also happy to just add something quickly before you jump in, Maya. Yeah, I found there was a lot of feedback on the mural that was put up downtown by the waterfront. I think location was key, and just transparency. Transparency was a big answer there. Yeah, just involvement, inclusivity was big, but I do find that everyone is, pushing for public art, big artistic community in Meaford. So I think those are what I found. But if Maya, if you have anything, you can take over.
I'm just rummaging through some of our answers here. But yeah, like Emily mentioned, we just had a lot of positive feedback, which was really nice. Especially, you never know how these questionnaires are going to go. And there was just a lot of people pushing for public art, a lot of people acknowledging that Meaford already has such a strong art presence. So there was nothing too surprising. We obviously had a few people on the pushback side, but it was such a small number, which was really nice to see.
Other questions? Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And just a quick comment to add to what has been already said. as we move forward with this, we know Christmas on the Bay has created a really thorough and professional DEI policy. And I just think they might be considerate enough to allow us to borrow that to incorporate into the public art master plan as we go forward. So just wanted to mention that. Thank you.
If I may, I'll offer a few comments. First of all, I do apologize. I always have to tell people that it's a 10-minute time limit, but I would never have cut you off. And I'm sorry that you were rushed in trying to get through, such a great slide deck. You've saved our municipality a lot of money, and we appreciate that very much because the county has caught the idea too, and recently had another discipline at the University of Guelph provide a report, and that was on Deputy Mayor, help me out. It was to do with the. I know what I'm talking about. It's I'm trouble wording it. It was. Yes, in particular, like there's all kinds of special event venues being proposed and being built sometimes without even being proposed, and many have grown up over the years. So they gave us some really good ideas about how to control and how to enhance how we deal with that problem. So all I'm saying is that this is very valuable to us, and we do appreciate it. And I just wanted to also let you know that we do have a most valuable marine collection of marine artifacts. So when you're looking at the harbor, and you'll want to take a look at these artifacts and maybe advise us on how they could be incorporated into the landscape there. And with that, I'll move on. Thank you so much again, ladies. I'm going to call to the podium Dave Lamb. Dave is presenting on a property on Center Street, and we'll get your mic turned on there. And
Okay. Boy, this is everybody's leaving. Probably for good reason, I don't know. First of all, for those who don't know me, my name's Dave Lamb, and I've been elected by the fourth generation of our family to speak on their behalf. For people who don't know what we do, we are in the apple industry, and we have two retail outlets, Grandma Lamb's 1 and 2 in Meaford. And I'm going to bring in this piece of property that I'd like to discuss today. It is a piece of property on Center Street in Meaford, and it has been owned partially, the northern section of it has been owned since the 50s in our families, and the middle and southerly portion have been owned since the 70s. And I can understand a few questions now as to why we would want to change the usage of it. But I would like to also say that the apple industry has changed considerably. It has got to the point where if you don't own 400 or 500 acres in a central position in your community or your county, and you can't just get up in the morning and go to one of those 400 acres, volume is the business in the apple industry now. And we are in a situation where we're crowded on our home farm for wanting to do it, to expand simply because of purchasing future land. We're situated under the big hill, which as you go up there, we get into frost damages, and we're also subsequent to the town growing as it has started to do. I want to, again, secondly, I would like to thank the planning department for the help that they've given me so far, because in discussions with Denise, Ms. McCarl, she was very professional in telling me what I might be able to do or might not be able to do with the property, and was leading me into the situation because it is in the secondary plan area of Meaford. It's a situation where at this point, you need full services for the type of land inside that secondary plan. So she did explain that very well to me. However, it is just such a unique property for me, not because I own it, but because of its boundaries. And if you look at some of the mapping that I gave you in the little, I certainly don't have screenshots. I'm not up to that caliber. But it's a situation where there is a letter in there from Denise McCarl indicating, and it was to Ron Davison, who, by the way, I have on my employment. He got me what I needed for the idea of the situation of this property. I also, when you look at the 47 lot subdivision that I would like to propose, it was done by professional engineers, Tatham's. So it isn't just something that I did on the back of a bin somewhere in the orchard. It's a case of it being done by professionals. I'd like to also draw you to the attention of one of the mapping in there that shows the property around east, west, north, and south of our proposed property. It would be this one here in your pamphlet, and I'll just give you a screenshot. This one here shows you the neighborhood. This one also in the yellow shows you the neighborhood of the homes east. So in me being able to tell you, if we were standing on Center Street right now, the buffer on the westerly border of this property is the Big Head River. And it is Trout Hollow. And so to the south of this is what locals used to call 1213 Side Road. Now it's Muir Street. And if you continue from Highway 26 westerly on Muir Street, you'll know that it dead ends at the Big Head River. So in essence, you've created a boundary there, which is rather unique. And the secondary use of that boundary, also Muir Street, is the property south of Muir Street, being the old Comley Orchard, as we call it, or Cool's Orchard, is zoned special agriculture. So you've cut off development at this point for that, being a unique boundary for our property, in my opinion. And if you look to the east on that, you will see that there are existing homes, and you will also see that to have it enclosed, and it is in the secondary plan on the east side of Center Street, you can see from the mapping that there's very little more development able to be done east, only but through infilling lots. So the cost of wastewater, and that's the big thing, is that in the secondary plan, you need wastewater and municipal water. And we all know where our wastewater or sewage disposal plant is at and how long it might take to get that done. So I think that what I'd like for the council to do is to recognize the property. It's 48 acres. It is well defined in its boundaries. If this was 48 acres on the partial as a neighborhood where you could extend a future development, I would suggest that I would be foolish to be here. However, I'm in a situation where I think that this is a unique property with the expansion of the local area right around this being somewhat limited. The other thing too is that I've had the engineers draw up a plan that was no more than 52 lots and was no less than 38. This was the plan that I thought was the best for the property. It ends up being 47 lots. It will be on municipal water, which in the history of that, on the northerly property of this, I received a severance in the early 90s. And I extended the water for those lots. And also at the same time, the municipality at that time enlarged the water supply up Union Street and went west on Union Street through what we call Graham Comley's property. So the water supply is already to the property line. Sewage, again, we're a long way from a new wastewater plant. And I know that to throw even 47 lots onto a list, it would take a long time for that to happen. Right now, if we talk about density, I could sell these properties individually right now, and a person could go in and put one house
per lot or per acreage on that. However, I don't believe that that would be in the municipalities or my best interest to have just 3 homes on 48 acres. The other thing too is that in the secondary plan, it indicates, as the province has mandated, that you need 60 units per hectare. So let's just be simple here and divide that acreage. And I've also done, prior to this, there was a large developer who had in essence purchased the property, but in going further with it, with the town, indicated to him that it could be 15 to 20 years before it could be serviced. So he pulled his offer out. However, I want you to recognize this property again as unique. And if it were allowed to be fully serviced on sewer and water, and let's just say that we can develop 30 acres and divide that 60 units in half per acre, you would be looking at 900 to 1,000 units in that area. To me, this area does not reflect that type of density. It's a rural country area that I think would be enhanced simply because there are people in the municipality right now who are living on smaller lots. Their children have either gone to university or they're having children. A half-acre lot on town water with its own septic system would allow them to transfer possibly up to a new home on Center Street. And then the people who are in apartments or whatever could transition into those homes that were left behind. So it's not only a situation where I believe this property is unique, it's a situation where I think it's really good planning for what we're looking for in the municipality. As Councillor Greenfield said, it's a unique area that we have the water, we have everything. We have a lot of density going on west of Meaford right now. So I would really like to see this area, even if it's only my property or our property, come out of that secondary plan. Now, that's all I've got to say. If there's any questions, I'd be more than willing to try to answer them.
Thank you, David. Questions for him? I'm going to start with Councillor Greenfield.
Thank you, Your Worship, to Mr. Lamb. Thanks, David and family for coming out this afternoon. Let me start by saying, David, I think this is a much more sensible idea than some planning suggestions we've had come before us, and I won't go any further on that. I do have one question. There's a lot in the northwest corner that doesn't have a number on it. Is that designed to be a green area or a stormwater?
Yes, that's stormwater easement.
Stormwater,
Yeah,
okay.
I think it has it.
All right,
I'm sorry if I
just-
didn't write it on there. And I will also say to that question, I have received a lot of the information that the previous purchaser had done. And there was already some things done with Great Conservation. There was also some things done through him with the town at that point. However, it was all based on full services. So we do have some of that, that if what I'm looking for from the council today, obviously, is to be able to go ahead with the planning department and ourselves to be able to attempt to receive an official plan amendment for this particular property.
Yeah, if I may just
go ahead.
follow up. Thanks, David, for that. I see in your report, you're calling the soil there tea soil, and as I understand it, tea soil is top dressing. It's landscaping soil. It's very good quality soil. I'm hearing that in some rural areas around weeping beds, it has to have gravel, but they're surrounding the areas with that type of soil. So I'm thinking that's kind of a natural advantage for this property, which may be very worthwhile in the future.
Well, as your sketch there, where it shows the building envelope and the septic system itself, We, Tatham, went with the worst conditions that you could ever have for a septic system. High water table, solid clay soil, that type of thing. And that's why at this point, you'll see that sewage area is quite large. But yes, there is topsoil there, but it does head into some clay in certain sections.
Councillor Yurick?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Who's this David guy you're talking to? Hi, Dave. No,
Counselor Yuri, how are you today?
never heard you called David before. I'm sure your mother did when you were in trouble.
Yeah.
Thank you for, you've obviously put a lot of thought and work into this, and there's a couple of things I just wanted to say. I had no trouble kind of supporting what you're proposing, because you're right, it's that backing onto the Big Head and the bush and the Trout Hollow. It is just a perfect location to have kind of a small subdivision that many people could enjoy, as opposed to like three people or three homes. So you've given it a lot of thought, and it's really, really great to hear. Obviously, the official approval authority for subdivisions goes through the county, and I'm just wondering what conversations, or if you're kind of doing this first, have you had conversations with the county? And secondly, have you had conversations, or Mr. Davidson, with Grace Obel, just to see what their sign offs on this is as well?
Well, I'm using, I'll have to be honest here, I'm using the information that was given to me as the third party getting all the information from the developer who had purchased this. The Grace Obel is on side with certain setbacks from the riverbanks and that type of thing. However, I really believe at this point, it's a direction I need from the council to have our planning department in Meaford sit down with my planner, with me or whatever, to see if we can go one step farther with the official plan amendment. And, you know, I could say that I talked to certain people in the county. I mean, I look at Chatsworth, and Chatsworth has a solid water supply right in their town. They've just approved 80 lots on the south side of their Legion in that area to be on septic and municipal water. You go out into Sydenhammer, you go out into Georgian Bluffs, all of a sudden there's a Barry Crystal Bank settlement of homes, and obviously no wastewater sewage disposal plant there. It's on well, and that's the reason that we're at half-acre lots. And that's the reason that we can work with 47 lots instead of 97. And there's still the people and the persons out there that they want to have a little shop in their backyard. Or they actually, for some reason, I really enjoy it, but for some reason, they want to get out of the house and go and cut the grass. They just don't want to be on a postage stamp lot. But again, I would just hate to see this, even from my standpoint of being able to develop it or sell it to someone. I'd hate to see link houses in there and condominiums and that type of thing. I just think that this area just could be so easily settled with nice big 1,200 to 2,500 square foot homes, all in a rural residential area.
Councillor Bell?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Mr. Lamb, for coming today and talking to us about this. I believe that your train of thought on it is pretty solid. I like that you've had previous engagement with our planning department, and from your expressions, I believe you've had a pretty wholesome relationship, and I hope that definitely continues. I'm pleased that you mentioned about Chatsworth, that there's another area right in Grey County right here that has had latitude to do exactly what you're asking to do. So I hope that you continue with our planning department, that you make progress with them along those lines. And honestly, I really hope that I'm on council when staff bring forward a report for us to consider making a zoning change exactly what you're after. So on that note, I wish you well on this.
Well, I appreciate that. And I think that in my understanding, I need to have Meaford as a council and as the planning department on board with this before I would go to the county. And and I know that it's going to take 6 months, probably, maybe a year, but I need to have that start before the race is over type thing, you know? So that's why I would ask again for the approval that way. And again, I, I can't say anything. Planning department in Meaford and anywhere else has their hands tied with either provincial legislature or with past decisions by councils. So Ms. McCarl was exactly prudent in saying, Dave, you can't do it because. But I'm not the type of guy to, I'm not satisfied with that answer if I can not go over anybody's head, but to work with the planning department to move on.
Councillor Forder and then Councillor Ennis.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you, and certainly appreciate that, and I can appreciate what you're trying to do here. And for those that might be listening to the meeting on YouTube that may not have some of the background information, I'm hoping that someone from staff might be able to explain why development is required to be on full municipal services. Like, what are the roadblocks here, just so everybody understands sort of a high level overview of what that looks like from the from staff's perspective, please.
Denise McCarl.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So to answer the councilor's question, there's a number of things that we have to consider in this area. So we, at the time when these policies were put in place for the future secondary plan, worked with infrastructure and public works internally, everybody that was involved. So it would have been, community services, finance, all of those folks were working together on what needed to happen. And one of the reasons that this secondary plan was put in place was because of the comprehensive nature of planning for an area that is, for the most part, larger tracts of vacant land or land with very little on it, just maybe a house on a big lot, but knowing that this is in the urban area. So we need to plan this really carefully to ensure that infrastructure is available to all the lands, that there's roads to those lands, that the appropriate mix of units and things like that are there. That's why the secondary plan was put in place as a requirement before development. On the infrastructure specific piece, there is sewer on Union Street that will be extended to get to the Union Center property and then can continue on there. But the rest on Center Street doesn't have an easy, quick way to do it. We're probably not going to just extend lengths of pipe for somebody on the very end. So in this case, the property, the kind of the furthest from that pipe in this entire area would be really difficult. So it would likely not happen incrementally for everybody. That's why the comprehensive nature is needed. So we have to plan it out to understand what are the needs of this entire area. There's also only 3 or so roads into this whole area, and they're not all perfect. So it would be great to be able to plan out the road network as well, and if anything needs to be improved in that regard. I wasn't part of those initial conversations. I'm just aware that this was a collaborative approach within the director team. It wasn't something that was just a planning thing, hey, there's not a big tract of land there. So there's a lot that needs to go into it. But we are looking at multiple official plan amendments if we were going to consider taking some lands out of the secondary plan area, because we would need to change the density as well at the county plan. So there's quite a few levels. We're able to continue. There's no vote needed to have us continue talking with Mr. Lamb and Mr. Davidson about the next steps or whether or not it is something that can be considered. We continue to talk with all developers or people interested in developing to give them more information about the process. We've also already engaged with the county. That's certainly not something that we'd wait on. We would do that initially as soon as somebody's thinking about doing a subdivision. We would engage with the county about whether or not that there's any hurdles that way, because in this case there's policies to consider as well as just the subdivision approval.
Tori, would you like to contribute too?
Through your worship, I'm happy to provide a little bit more of an infrastructure lens. When we did our last master plan for water and wastewater, it did include looking at this area, and it does include the addition of both sanitary sewer and some water main where it doesn't exist. Obviously, this is a location where there is water main. The item that we want to ensure we are looking at when we're looking at individual developments is that broader picture, recognizing that if one property has septic on site, it now reduces the amount being added to future servicing, which could make the cost for other properties unreasonable and prevent other development. And so those are things we just need to look at. And that is why the approach of having a whole review of the entire secondary plan area has been identified so that we can understand the impact not only to one property, but to all of the properties in the area. We could at some point move forward with the whole area being on private sanitary. There are options, but to date, what has been identified is sanitary sewer in this area. And so that is kind of the direction we have been moving in. I don't think it prevents us from having these conversations with individual landowners, but we just want to be cautious that we're not impacting other properties in the area by moving forward in a direction on a single property.
Thank you very much. Denise?
I also just wanted to mention that I believe there's a report coming in at the next council meeting about growth and growth management that might help to, clarify some of the things that we're dealing with right now.
That would be helpful, sure. Councillor Ennis.
You through, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate the way that this seems to be moving forward. So I'm very happy to see that it's been such a collaborative process, both on your side, Mr. Lamb, and the municipality. I'm just curious. I respect your arguments for looking for an amendment, and just thinking about the septic system. The plan is, if I understand correctly, that each individual unit would have its own, or each lot would have its own. Okay.
Yes.
I'm just wondering then, maybe as a way to sort of meet in the middle on this, if it were to be a shared septic system or a couple of shared septic systems, that if we were in a position in the future to connect sanitary sewers to the property because changes on surrounding properties occur, that they could then maybe be hooked up in some way. I don't know if engineering allows for that. So perhaps looking at municipal staff there, but that might be a way to help propose the project at other levels as well, so that you have some good future planning, but also have a solution to get this started now.
I appreciate your peace truce talk here, but it's a situation where 47 lots, if we were to put them on community septic, obviously the amount of lots would decrease for that reason. And secondary to that, do we go in and put in new water and all brand new highways or roads into this subdivision and then tear it up 20 years from now, whenever the wastewater area, or 10 years or 8 years now, to put in the lines? Or do you ask the developer at that time to put the lines in? It would seemingly be a situation where either, I hate to use this phrase, but either you're in or you're out. It's a case where we're either servicing it in the future, which is what I've heard for the last 35 or 40 years. Future is going to come. And it's a situation where, again, it is, I guess, because it's my specific property, but I'm in a situation where when you look at the overall secondary plan, there is not a whole lot of vacant land there other than our 50 acres. There's 16 on the top end of Center Street. And I don't know if the planning department is going to go to the province and say, we don't need this special agricultural land anymore. I don't know that. So my hope is that if I leave here today without a direction, I just feel I've fell back into exactly where I was before I got here.
Well, I can say that we won't be able to give you a direction today. We will probably direct staff to give us a report on where we can go.
So then, sorry, Mr. Mayor, but the council can't give
an answer today,
a direction to the planning department to work with me to see about an official
yes,
plan?
but we wouldn't do that today. We would give them some direction.
From the planning department?
Yes. I've just got one point for you, David, and that is Does your project target any housing gaps in Meaford?
Well, I can't answer that. I don't know. I didn't go into that in depth, but I don't know
Because-
how many, I don't know how many other subdivisions with half acre lots there are. I mean, look at the top of Fourth Line. It was done in the 70s and 80s, the Third Line. There's lots of places that have septic.
Well, there's a key word when I talk about housing gaps, and it's affordability. You know, and there's all kinds of levels of affordability, but I'm saying that if you could satisfy us that there is a gap that you would fill with this subdivision, that would be you know, an excellent opportunity for us to champion your cause. So that's what I'm looking for, and I think that if you could identify a price point that is that would play into this whole business of affordability and filling a gap, I think that would be another important consideration. So I just encourage you to think about this and what you might be able to offer council in terms of a rationale for going for an official plan amendment that would take this into our primary area. Denise?
I was just going to suggest, or maybe just a little bit of a misunderstanding what like a deputation can do. In this case, any developer can come to talk with us about what they're thinking. And if you look at my correspondence, it does say, look at the policies and discuss them with the client. So Mr. Davidson discussed these with his client, and we could have a follow-up. I can't go ahead and do anything without an application, but I can have lots of conversations ahead of that. So if anyone is free to apply for any of the applications that are on our website, official plan amendment, zoning, and all of those things. We certainly don't recommend they do that without talking to us, but we're happy to move forward to continue discussing potential for applications and things like that. We don't have to be directed to do that because we would always do it anyways. So I'm not really sure what other, you know, resolution or vote that you would be able to do. But if you were looking for a follow-up report, we could certainly provide one, but it would just be a very high level pre-application report, which is kind of unusual for planning, right? We don't usually provide a report ahead of an application coming in. But we're happy to continue on having conversations about what the potential are for these lands and what our policies kind of dictate. And so what policy they'd be looking to, you know, amend if they wanted to apply anyways.
Is there any help that we can give the proponent in terms of identifying the housing gaps that exist in urban Meaford?
So I don't have that information in front of me right now, but we'd certainly, through the housing study that the county's done, have some information about housing gaps, and it's certainly at the low end. So the more affordable housing is what's missing.
Yeah, we actually have one of the I guess the chief planner in Greg County, I believe, lives very close to this location that you have there. That's all I can offer at this point, but others may have some suggestions too. Councillor Bell.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. So from a procedural point of view, and because of the depth of engagement that needs to be done from an engineering aspect, would it still be in order if a member of council brought forward a notice of motion for the future for staff to engage, finding out the details of doing exactly what Mr. Lamb said transpired down in Chatsworth, where they have done this kind of thing, but staff are definitely going to need some time in order to pull that together, even to do a presentation to council for council's consideration. And I'm thinking that it's going to be past this elected terms council sitting here, but that we can still do that. We can still bring a notice of motion to give direction to council. I don't think there'd be anything that would stop us from doing that.
I think I defer to clerk.
Thank you, Your Worship. To Councillor Bell, I do think that this might be a situation where staff may want to talk, having heard the presentation, just to make sure that we're not preempting the planning process and work that staff is already doing with the applicant, as Denise had mentioned. I would ask perhaps that we could have that time to talk to figure out what would be appropriate and what wouldn't be appropriate, ensuring that we don't overstep the timelines and the processes as the applicant has to move through. But that might be my first approach. Otherwise, I would maybe ask for a recess to talk through this with our planners to just understand what could and couldn't happen through the process, if that makes sense.
I want to share, yeah, I'll turn it over to you, Councillor, but I do assure you, housing is high on our priorities. We're glad to see you here today, and I can tell you that the CAO and I had a good discussion this morning about how we might be able to, help you, and we're very anxious to do that. It's just a matter of finding the rationale, I would say, that would make it less of an uphill climb to have such an amendment to our official plan.
But in the interim, I can put the property up for sale and somebody can buy it and put one house on it. Right?
We won't, I'm not saying we're going to waste a lot of time. That's not my idea. I've only got a little bit of time, so I'm working on this, believe me. Councillor Uri.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's an adjacent conversation, directly proportional. So the wastewater plant itself, I know we've applied a couple of times already unsuccessfully. Where are we in the process? I mean, we always have to have an eye to doing that. I'm applauding Mr. Lamb for coming forth with a concept that actually supersedes that need, because to think outside the box and say, hey, we can actually put in a subdivision, because right now we're getting to that point. We're already having developers asking us about future availability in our wastewater ability, and that's going to always be an issue moving forward. This is kind of circumventing that, and that's a good thing. But dovetailing forward, we always still have to have our eye on the ball regarding the wastewater. So do we have any idea kind of where we are with that? And I know I don't want to put you on the spot, because I know you won't have that answer like that, but we must have some kind of a plan in place.
Through your worship, Council received a report last summer with regards to the wastewater treatment plant, identifying that there wasn't quite as much of a rush as had been identified previously, for a couple of different reasons. One being that we just are seeing reduced flows in our system, partially because of some of the I&I work we're doing, and for other various reasons. As well, we've had some additional review done, which really digs into what is contributing to our average daily flows, and has identified a little bit of capacity there as well when we look at, what are our dry weather flows versus wet weather flows. And so we're still working through a bit of that process with the consultant so that we can really dig down and fully understand where we're at, and how much capacity we have. But through the review we've been doing to date, we definitely have some capacity right now. We definitely aren't at the point where we were at 75 to 80%. We're closer to that 50%. But recognizing we do have a fair amount of development identified that could obviously increase that. And so the expansion is still something that's on our radar and will still be coming forward in upcoming years. But there isn't quite as much of that crunch as we were at in the past couple of years. So as we work through that, something will be coming to council later this year with that information, and then we'll be using it to help build our updated water and wastewater master plan. And obviously it's always better to have a design ready to go, because that's what the province is really looking for with the funding, is that we're shovel ready. And so we will be looking to doing that design, and then really digging down in when that construction is needed. But again, it really is dependent on what we see for timing of development. Some of these developments come forward, they seem very eager, but it's all timing on their end. And so we'll continue to be working with the planning department to really figuring out what that timing looks like, as we're constantly working on it. But it is really interesting to see every year to year, those things are changing, but we're trying to stay on top of it so that we don't ever run into a point where we're stopping things from happening.
I think we better move along, but I'm going to just add one thing, David, and that is that you raise a very important point in terms of every buyer in your subdivision will hopefully, at least maybe every second or third buyer will open up a house that is more moderately priced than a new one. And I think that that's important. And we're just looking for any and all gaps that we can, identify that would make it easier to rationalize what you're talking about, which makes a lot of sense to all of us. Okay.
Well, Ken, I want to thank the council and the planning department for at least listening to me today and to see where we can go from here.
Thank you.
Thank you
very much. And we have another presentation, at least not a presentation, but a deputation. So just give me a moment to yes, please, and thank you. We'll get Deputy Mayor Keaveney to take her place again. Now I'm going to call Simona Fragbergova and Mark Plemmer to the podium to speak to us with respect to the community gardens.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, Council, and staff. Your name, Simona and Mark. We're on the board of the community garden. And Nick, who is also our third, isn't able to come here today. He's working at the town of the Blue Mountains. Anyway, thank you for the opportunity to speak today on behalf of the Meaford Community Garden. Since our last presentation to Council in February, we'd like to provide a brief update on the progress that's been made and share the work our team has undertaken as we continue planning for the garden's future. We also like to acknowledge and thank Brady Carr-Barrett from the planning department, who is extremely generous, actually community services department, who was extremely generous with his time through this process. Worked really collaboratively with our team, reviewed all the options, and there was many options, and we've come down to 2 sites and decide which is the best site to go forward. So today, of those 2 sites that are being considered for the relocation of the Meaford Community Garden from the old GBSSS, we went through the criteria as a board to decide what is going to be the best site based from our perspective. And of course, that goes back to our mission statement. Our goal is always to create fresh food, produce for the food bank. And the other one is we want to share our knowledge of gardening to teach, especially young souls, and also build community spirit in Meaford. So after extensive review, consultation, and planning, our board does strongly support the Muir Street location, the industrial land, if that's the term you'd like to use, as our preferred long-term solution for the garden and the community it serves. So the Muir Street location offers a space to grow food and meet the growing demand in the near future with the food bank. We do about 2,000 pounds of fresh produce that goes throughout the season because we are able to plan ahead. So even in the spring, we've got kale and onions. So, and the food bank just doesn't have that kind of fresh produce normally. Moving on, we've also this location supports partnerships with the Georgian Bay Community School, Knox Presbyterian, and the McDonald's Furniture Store. They've been really generous to allow us to transport large materials such as compost and such through there. The location with the school, it gives us an opportunity to interact with the students for hands-on learning opportunities. And of course, ongoing a little bit more engagement with them because they don't have to travel as far. Literally, the ask was to have a gate between the school fence to the garden, so that would be easy access. And I understand we need to get a little bit more clarification from the board on that. But we do have an email saying that they're willing to go forward. Okay, we recognize that infrastructure and access planning are important considerations. So we've got the walkability with the address with the Knox Presbyterian Church. Georgian Bay Community School has got a plan for their students to get safely. And we've already talked about McDonald Furniture have allowed us to move major resources, so things like sheds and other things to go through their property. So we'd like to say that the Meaford has done a tremendous amount of work that has been accomplished over the past 3 months, and to thoughtfully move this initiative forward and build a strong foundation for its long success, term success. Our garden is more than just a place to grow vegetables. It's a gathering space, an educational resource, a wellness initiative, and a growing symbol of community connection. So we ask respectfully the council to consider the not only immediate logistics of relocation, but the long-term opportunity to create a vibrant, accessible, and lasting community asset. So thank you for your time and consideration, your support. And if there's any questions, feel free to ask me or Brady when the actual report is discussed today at the meeting.
Questions, Council? Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I'm still trying to put my thoughts together. And I appreciate Mr. Plummer and Ms. Fabricova that you're here with us today to express that this is your preferred location, because as we know, we do have a report to discuss later in our agenda. So understanding that this property, as you speak about a longer term goal, and we recognize there is some work still to be accomplished to make this possible. I guess my question at this point, which we will discuss further in the report, is if I can look to you, Mr. Carbert, in general terms or high level terms, what would it take to make possible the community gardens in this space? We know that we have to go back to the Blue Water District School Board and get some further permissions. Beyond that, what else would be necessary to make this go forward?
To the Deputy Mayor, through your worship. Yes, I was planning on going a little bit further in depth in the report when it comes into committee of the whole, but at a high level at this point, we're currently constrained because the property fronts on Muir Street, and that is where our access is. So in order to access the 2-acre parcel that the ideal location for the community garden would be located on requires access across private property. So the work that would be completed would require legal and survey work to get the necessary and legal permissions to cross that property for the group. It's a great piece of property. We're just, I think, a little bit ahead of the curve in trying to put the project or the location up to there without doing the design work for the industrial lands. So this is why those legal steps would be required to protect the municipality and all 3 neighboring property owners.
Go ahead.
Follow up, if I may, Mr. Mayor, then. So, Mr. Carbert, is what I'm hearing that it would be difficult to get this all in place to go forward with a garden this year?
Through to the Deputy Mayor, through your worship. Not difficult. There's obviously legal and survey opportunities. It would take us a little bit more time and more money because we would be the ones requiring the easements, the municipality would. So those would be costs borne by us to do it. So the location being at the Blue Dolphin Pool is something that could be mobilized relatively quickly. But at this point, I'm unable to tell you how long it would take to get the legal and survey completed for this area.
Councillor Ennis?
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor, and to Mark and Simona. Just wondering, what is the community garden's ability to wait? So if it does take longer, maybe it takes till next year to get things rolling. Is that doable for the gardens?
Thank you for that question. So to a couple points. For the first one, we've actually formed a partnership with Cirrus Farms, which is just up Grey Road 7 on the top of the hill. They have opened up a part of their land for us to farm. So we're doing that, and we're grateful. And Savannah Stevens here is our garden coordinator for this summer. So she's going up there. Now, the problem is she lives in Meaford, and even though it's not that far, we have to think about fuel costs because everyone's paying more for fuel costs. And the garden budget, is not significant. But so that is, we're not in a rush. But the only thing that we have that is at a time bound is, unfortunately, because we were asked to leave the property of the old school. And I can see now that there's an application for 89 new student apartment complex there. We do want to get our materials off there. So there's a shed, well, the shed's gone, but the sitting area shed, tools and the hoop house and everything else, we need to have that to a safe location in case it's just thrown out, right? So the other thing to note is that we did ask for funding for the industrial land to put a parking lot in, and we're willing to fund that for $4,000. It's at the end of the McDonald's access road, and it would be on, of course, the municipal land. So we are putting resources and time and consideration and financial resources as well towards this project.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So what I'm hearing then is that you have a temporary location for this year. So if the Muir Street property had to be a budget line in the 2027 municipal budget to complete various upgrades that would need to happen, then you could still function this year and move forward then with the larger project in 2027, presumably.
Absolutely, with the caveat of being, we need storage for those materials on the old school or the old garden location. Because again, the relationship wasn't negative, but it wasn't accommodating, let's put it that way, so.
Mr. Mayor, so perhaps we could look at Mr. Carpert and see if we thought we could find somewhere around the municipality to store those things in the meantime for a year. So I think we can have a conversation about that.
Thank you all for listening.
Okay, thank you. Council inquiries. Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I wanted to ask CAO Everett, having heard the conversation at the planning meeting last Monday with the proposal for a trades training center in the old high school, and recognizing that this week we have the announcement of the new JK to grade 4 school on the track property, we're hearing a lot of concern in the community about traffic. And I understand this is new news and there's been no time yet for discussions at any level, but I'm just wondering what your initial thoughts might be in terms of a traffic study or just what we think traffic could look like at St. Vincent Street. We've got the hill and Aiken Street right there and a pretty tight turn, and just how do we start the conversation of how to approach this traffic dilemma?
Thank you, through Mr. Mayor to the Deputy Mayor. With the Blue Water District Blue Water District School announcing the funding to do that new school, that will include a site plan review, which ultimately will have to look at on-site parking, traffic flows, as well as what that traffic is going to look like on St. Vincent and Aiken and the surrounding streets. So we're early in that process. Actually won't have started that process yet, but it's definitely in the discussions that took place with the board. One of the things was making sure that those aspects are covered through the site plan, just to make sure that the traffic, especially the school bus routing, and then even the in and out off of Aiken Street or other streets are going to have to be considered.
Councillor Greenfield?
Thank you, Your Worship. I have a couple of questions, if I may. Start with our CAO, Mr. Everett, through you, of course. I've received a couple of concerns about riders of bicycles, e-bikes, and scooters. This is a different type of traffic concern. And the main concerns is that these vehicles are whizzing through stop signs in both an urban concern and a rural concern. I'm just wondering, is there anything we can add to our municipal website, some kind of a reminder that bicycles are required to follow the rules of the road, and it's in spite of the weather getting to be biking season, and I'm just wondering if we could put some kind of a firm reminder that there are rules out there to be followed by everyone.
Through Mr. Mayor to Councillor Greenfield, I think it's a great point. Happy to follow up with OPP as well. There has been a significant uptick in the e-bikes. In particular, I would say probably the biggest uptake I've seen is actually the young riders. And these e-bikes, for all intensive purposes, are almost like the old mini bikes. So there are rules and regulations for e-bikes. I think communicating that, because there are specifications, like an e-bike has to have pedals. It can't just be electric. It can only do, I believe, 32 kilometers an hour. So there's a bunch of things that we can make sure that we work with our communications team and put out some information for sure, as well as work with our OPP just to make sure, riding a bike with a helmet. I'm seeing even the younger riders not using helmets on these bikes, and I think I heard that the trips to emergency rooms have actually spiked with the number of e-bike related, not in Meaford necessarily, but just throughout Canada, e-bikes, the injuries are significant. So happy to do that.
Thank you for that. I have a second question, but if
go ahead,
someone
and
else wants to go.
Go ahead.
Okay, thanks. This is through you to Mr. Carver. I'm wondering, Brady, I see we have some boats in the water down at the harbor. And I'm just wondering, first question is, do we have an official launch day for boats, or is it at the request of owners? So that's one question. The other question is the fountain up at the cemetery. Any progress being made there? Thank you.
To Councillor Greenfield, to your worship. With regards to the harbor, the municipality has an agreement with Richardson Boat Works. The agreement does not specify one day for the boats to be launched, similar to what happens down in Thornbury. The Boat Works has up until July 1st to have the boats removed from the municipal property. That being said, there has been some issues over the past couple of years coordinating that between Richardson Boat Works and the owners of the boats, and staff are working with the Boat Works this year to rectify that issue to prevent it from occurring in the future. And in light of hopefully the dredging work and the staging that we will need to do on the harbor property, we are going to need to allocate as many parking spots as possible. So staff will be working to meet that July 1st deadline, but there may be a few stragglers that we have to deal with after that. For the Lakeview Cemetery, there has been a purchase order issued for the work on the existing pond at the entrance to replace the liner and update that fountain. The other direction from council last fall was for staff to bring back a report for the center fountain. And we're working on developing a couple options and bringing that to a council meeting likely in June, looking for direction on how to proceed with that fountain.
Councillor Yuri.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. With your indulgence, I have a couple as well. One being, and I guess probably the CIO Everett, we've had many conversations about the Miller Street Edwin erosion issue, and I'm just wondering, are we, now that the river is down to a dull roar and hopefully rain is finally kind of giving up a little bit, and we're maybe even getting into whatever spring looks like, whether there's any traction on that as well? I know CIO Lanthier is away right now. I'm not sure if he's away this week, but there will be a meeting the following week. And if I need to relay any information, but I will definitely be asking him at that table as well, just kind of what plans are for moving forward on that issue.
Through Mr. Mayor, I'll look to our Director of Infrastructure and Public Works to respond. I do know that she's actively on that.
Thank you.
Through your worship, we are retaining an engineer. We have essentially retained them. We're just in some final discussion about exactly what the scope is in this location and another location that had some significant deterioration during the spring melt this year, to complete design work in quick order so that we can then get some construction completed. For the Miller Street location, we are looking for kind of a more interim solution before we complete the EA for the roadway, in which we can then do a more long-term solution with whatever ends up happening with that roadway. And so we are looking to get design completed by the beginning of June so that we can then proceed with work. With regards to our discussion with Gray Sauble, there definitely needs to be more discussion with them. We want to make sure that we are moving forward with actually protecting the area. So that's been our focus. And we will continue to discuss with them what our opportunities are. I know they're more than happy to work with us on the permitting that's required for the work. And I think there's just some discussion on what's happening, and maybe there's some ways that it can be prevented on the Gray Sauble side so that we're not seeing as much deterioration in the future.
Thank you. I appreciate that. With your indulgence, second one is, it's a good news and bad news always. The Rotary Baggy Day just happened last weekend, and that was really good news in that they picked up a great deal of garbage as usual. Beautifies the town, which is then hats off. They did a phenomenal job. One of the things I heard that came out of that was not really great, was at the base of the Meaford Hall LED sign out front. They found needles in the bushes around the base of that sign. And it brings me around to, I have been asking, I don't know, since starting council my term, about getting cameras downtown. This actually just, to me, elevates that. I mean, if we can hopefully identify people who are doing kind of things which are obviously a danger to people, particularly young people, then that would be helpful. So I don't know whether there's been any movement on the webcams for the downtown core, but I just want to put that back in the minds of staff that that was something that's been asked for, and I've been told is going to proceed. So I would just like to know if there's any movement on that.
Thank you for the question. And who's going to take that? I see people taking notes, so maybe.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Urick, I will follow up with our manager of IT to see where that project status is.
Any other questions at this time? Then we'll move on to our consent agenda. We've got 3 items here. And do you wish to deal with them with one fell swoop? Okay. Then I'll put these motions. The first one is recommendation that Council of the Municipality of Meaford approve the new Meaford telecommunications facilities and antenna systems protocol to guide municipal and public consultation for telecommunications facilities in accordance with Innovation, Science, and Economic Development Canada requirements, including replacement of the word may with shall regarding the submission of a decommissioning plan in Part 7 of the protocol for establishing telecommunications facilities and antenna systems in the municipality. Another one is that Council of the Municipality of Meaford, 1, approve the transfer of $327,368.31 from Road Reserve Fund to pay for asphalt resurfacing between structures Bridge 46 and Bridge 45 on Grey Road 12. 2, award the tender to SAFA Builders and Contractors for $833,848.41, including the municipality's non-refundable allocation of HST, and 3, authorize the clerk and the mayor to enter into the necessary agreement. And I missed, be it resolved that bylaw 2026-40, being a bylaw to amend the 2026 fees and charges bylaw, be taken as read a first, second, and third time and finally passed. So those are the 3 motions. Can I have a mover and seconder to adopt them? Councillor Bell and Councillor Forder, thank you. All in favor? Any opposed? Then that's unanimous. Madam Clerk? So items for consideration, and we have a few here. The first one, the recommendation is that Council of the that the Associate Council of the Municipality direct staff to submit an application to the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing requesting a delegation meeting with the Ministry of Energy and Mines at the 2026 Association of Municipalities of Ontario Conference. A mover and seconder. Deputy Mayor and Councillor Urick, thank you. Any discussion? All in, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just for the discussion piece of this is also an opportunity for council, if you wish for any additional delegations to be applied for the AMO conference. This is an opportunity for you to be able to just to identify what ministry and for what topic, and I'm more than happy to submit those applications. This is just the Energy and Mines one was one that was from a staff perspective thought would be always good to get in front of that ministry. But again, if there's any other topics that you would like to consider making application for, happy to have those considered as well.
Are any suggestions at the moment, or just you can get in touch with CAO Everett and make known your request? So I'll call the question then. All in favor? Any opposed? And that is carried unanimously. Thank you. The second one, the recommendation that the Council of the Municipality of Meaford hereby declares the municipal land as surplus to the municipality's need due to the nature of the future use of the lands being specifically for the purposes of additional public school and daycare facilities that provide significant community benefit. 2, approves the sale and disposition of municipal land to the Blue Water District School Board for the potential future construction of a school and daycare facility as a community benefit and supporting our local residents, with the selling price being $250,000. 3, authorize the mayor and clerk to execute all required land sale and land transfer and other required documents to complete the final sale and disposition transaction. And 4, direct staff to allocate the funds for the sale of these municipal lands to the 2026 sale of land revenue that was approved in the 2026 budget. A mover and a seconder for this. Councillor Forder and Councillor Greenfield, thank you. Any discussion? Councillor Greenfield?
Thanks, Your Worship. I just wondered, do we have any idea of the time required to complete this transaction? I'm assuming it's fairly quick.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Urick. Yeah, the agreement of purchase and sale has been completed, so this can have a very quick turnaround. This report was penned prior to the actual award or the successful application. So of Blue Water District School Board being approved for this. So both parties want to make sure that we get this done in a timely fashion.
Are you ready for the vote? All in favor? Any opposed? And that is carried unanimously. The next recommendation is that Council of the Municipality of Meaford approve the award of proposal 2026-01 Municipal Insurance Program and Risk Management Advice to Intact Public Entities for $349,172 pre-tax dollars, and to authorize the mayor and clerk to enter into the necessary agreement. Mover and a seconder. Councillor Forder and Deputy Mayor Keaveney, thank you. Any discussion of this item, Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I did have a question for Mr. Dinsmore. Just curious, we recognize the budget was nearly 500,000 and this has come through at roughly 350,000. So wonderful savings. Congratulations. But my curiosity is, what did we pay for insurance last year? Are we actually paying less than we did last year, or where do we stand?
Yes, thank you. And through you, Your Worship, the 2025 budget was right around that same mark of the 500,000. We've seen that number fairly consistently in the last few years.
Go ahead.
So if I may, Mr. Mayor, so last year's budget was 500. Did we actually pay close to $500,000 for insurance last year?
Yeah, sorry, excuse me. Yes, we did.
So now we're seeing a savings of 150.
Correct.
That's
That,
wonderful.
that is something for the history books. CAO Everett? Oh, go ahead, Councilor Porter.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. I think the cost savings is fantastic. Just want to make sure, especially for everybody listening, this is still providing the same level of coverage as the previous arrangement.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, the coverage is the exact same.
That's great news. Congratulations. And
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I just want to thank the leadership team. This was a major and a significantly large request for proposal. It took a lot of time going through the evaluation. I will say that one of the great pieces of this is the broker that we'll be dealing with is in Meaford. So it's nice, close to home, this was an RFP that was scheduled, I think, to take place a couple of years ago. So getting it done this year and seeing the savings and getting that same coverage is a huge benefit, and getting to shop local is also an added bonus.
Councilor Porter.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you. And through you, just one more for me. It mentions risk management advice. I'd like to know a little bit more about what that means. It's not clearly explained in the report, so that would be very helpful. Thank you.
Yes, of course, and through you, Mr. Mayor. So one of the things that Intact will do is actually go around and do inspections of our facilities, as an example, and give us some suggestions where we can potentially reduce liability. You see things like, maybe curb stops that don't have proper accessibility ramps or things like that. Things that, we have some fairly old facilities, so things that can get them brought up to speed and just overall help reduce our liability. They'll also look at processes and how we do our processes and where we may have weak points in those processes, where we could tighten them up a little bit. And again, just overall reduce our risk of
Yep, please.
Thank you. I lied. There's one more. Appreciate that answer. And that's all included in the base price. There's no additional charge for any of that extra work or service?
Through you. And for those services that I just outlined, they are included in the base price. They do offer other services that we could, staff could utilize if we wanted to, but they're a fee for service.
Okay, the next item is, did we vote on that? Yep, no, then I'll call the vote. All in favor? Any opposed? And that is carried unanimously. And the next one is that Council of the Municipality of Meaford, 1, endorse the general positions outlined in the County of Grey staff report respecting Bill 98 and associated environmental and regulatory registry consultations. 2, authorize staff to submit comments to the province of Ontario expressing Meaford-specific considerations related to municipal autonomy, parkland dedication, including privately owned public spaces, water and wastewater servicing, development charges, and long-term financial sustainability. And 3, direct staff to continue monitoring provincial regulations arising from Bill 98 and report back to council as required. Can I have a mover and seconder for this? Deputy Mayor and Councillor Urick, thank you very much. Who wants to speak to this? Councillor Bell?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this is extremely important, like a lot of the issues that staff bring before council for council's consideration. But we just had a guest speaker earlier today talking about lot sizes that particular individual would like to do. And inside this one, it says that the lot size that would be proposed is 175 square meters. So quick arithmetic, that's like a 9 by 20. Convert it to imperial, maybe a 27-foot wide lot, maybe 60 feet deep. It's not a very big lot indeed. The other thing that is just so overriding in all of this is an official plan to be consistent and to be levied throughout, taking away again the character or the desires of a local community or a municipality to have our own, particularly this municipality not that long ago. I think it's been within 2 years. We did our own upgrade to our own official plan. And people spent a lot of time, they put a lot of effort, they came out and they helped form our official plan. And again, we're seeing a bill being passed or to be looked at and to be implemented. Even what you mentioned in your opening remarks, Mr. Mayor, the DC charges are going to be looked at. The building code, it's everything. So this is so extremely important. And sometimes it feels, I feel, as a council member and a person in this community, that there's a lot of times when these things come down upon us and there are things that really we would like to have a say differently. So I raised my hand to the fact that we need to have an official plan amendment. And we did that. And I enjoyed going through that with people of this community. But now when I see that Bill 98, it's got far-reaching implementations on what we can do. And I think it's going to change the character of this municipality. Thank you.
And I think it's exceedingly important that we send the province the report that has been written by staff here. I'm sure others would like to speak to this. Councillor Urick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll just weigh in and agree with that because we're right on the heels of what they're doing with the conservation authorities. And they're now, looks like they're just flexing their muscles even further. And it seems that everything that comes up, they're just taking more and more control. And it is very concerning, obviously. I would anticipate that there's going to be an awful lot of municipal pushback from very many sectors of the province that are going to be weighing in on this, like they did with conservation authorities. Sadly, that did not get any traction to any real significant change. So this is all we can do is push back as much as we can and hope that it does have some effect. But I do agree that we need to do it, and we need to make sure that we're supporting other municipalities doing the same, and support the county in their efforts as well.
Others wish to speak to this?
Just briefly, Mr. Mayor, thank you. And I think it's the appendix is here and the county report is just so incredibly well done. And for our staff to support that, I think is important. But I think one of the comments that came forward at county is that the province is now trying to sort of lump every municipality and, you know, into one, whether you're small or rural or urban or a city or whatever you are, the same rules are applying. And we had discussion at county that just doesn't really make sense because we're all very different. A small urban municipality is very different than an urban city. So we especially emphasized that at that level, that you know, that one size fits all just absolutely does not work in terms of this bill. So I hope from that perspective that the province will at least consider that there are differentiations needed between urban and rural.
Councillor Ennis.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. I have many of my own personal thoughts about this legislation, and I was very glad to see that, you know, pretty much all the way through the county comments and proposed municipality Meaford comments really align with the way that I feel personally. Roma, for me, in January was a pretty eye-opening experience to really get to understand how the province has been playing games with the functions of municipalities, and these very interventionist policies are just really getting out of hand. So I'm very glad to see that we are really advocating for ourselves and that the county and the municipality are united in that. And so I will be happy to support, you know, asking the province to really please consider everything that they're doing. So thank you.
Just going to maybe add that at the OSAM conference, which I attended 2 weeks ago, very prominent Toronto lawyer, Mr. Mascarin, did a whole thesis and presented us, and he basically said that this Bill 98, which is supposed to be about speeding up housing development, and he had that one headline, speeding up housing development or demolishing democracy. And by the time we were through, every single point pointed to demolishing democracy. It's very serious. Councillor Greenfield?
Thank you, Your Worship, and thanks for staff bringing this forward. There's a lot of scary ideas and legislation here. I may be overly nervous about this, but when I see what's been done to the conservation authorities, which is just simply not realistic. When I see development proposals and if municipalities haven't acted within 90 days, it's hey, quick to the OLT. I really worry that if Mr. Ford's government continues and he has a majority for the next 3 years, I guess that is the province indeed trying to take over everything? And will this eventually result in the elimination of local municipalities? We are creatures of the province, and it is within their realm that they could just simply shut us down. They're affecting school boards, health boards. Where's it going to end? This may be just a small piece of the puzzle, and we talk about democracy, and where has that gone?
I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that Simcoe County will not have an elected warden, but will have an appointed manager. And so that's right next door, and it's pretty much a fait accompli. So we haven't voted yet, I don't believe, and I just want to underline, I hope that we will be sending this report to Premier Ford and also to our local MPP. All in favor? Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. Thank you very much. We've got one more here, which I'm more than pleased to get on the table. That the recommendation is that Council of the Municipality of Meaford, 1, approve the award of tender 2024 parking lot construction at 28 Nelson Street West to ARC Landscape and Excavation for $358,193.89, including the municipality's non-refundable allocation of HST, and to authorize the mayor and clerk to enter into the necessary agreement. The mover and seconder, Councillor Urick and Councillor Greenfield. Any discussion? Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Really happy to see that this is going ahead. Although it still concerns me that EV chargers, while the conduit's going in, still are not happening. The report alluded to a couple of different reports that went back to 2018 and 2021. In the 21 report, there was a recommendation that literally said Meaford should support EV adoption through support of EV charging, low-cost chargers for use by the public or staff and administration to office at public locations could be a first step, and staff can explore the availability and cost of retaining a service provider for installation on public land. And it talked about the advantage that that provides in terms of putting us on the map in tourism and just modernization. And that's 5 years ago, and we are apparently not much closer. I'm hoping that, does anybody have an update on where we are with EV chargers at this point? It's amazing. We just found $150,000 in insurance that we seem to find these savings, but yet we don't seem to spend the low end chargers are like, $15,000 to $30,000. And yet we're not kind of servicing this parking lot, which really kind of, I find short-sighted.
CIO Everett.
Thank you. And I'll let Director Infrastructure and Public Works follow up. The goal for this project was, when we tendered it, we knew we needed to get it to be a parking lot. The earlier ideas of the EV chargers, when this project was budgeted, we budgeted to the amount that we thought we would need to actually get the parking lot done. made sure that the conduit was in because we wanted to make sure that we could get it to be a parking lot. I think what we've learned is, and the parking lot costs have come in relatively good. This is something I think we can look at in the future, in the near future, of now how do we do the battery chargers. So the key thing was, and this was something that was brought to my attention when I first came here, there were a number of projects that were budgeted that didn't get done. So this one was, and this was at my request, move forward with the parking lot, with the conduit in, so we can at least get the parking lot done. And then take a look at the EV stations, chargers later at that point. Thank you.
I think we'll hear from Tori first.
Through your worship, just to add what our CIO had identified, when we have looked at EV chargers in this location, it has been through grant funding, and to date, we have not been successful in receiving the grant funding or the significant grant funding through the province. I do know that there was a county program as well that unfortunately came to a stop. But it does sound like that one does have some progress potentially moving forward. So we could look at using this site as a location for that project to go in, or if council does want to proceed, and there is no grant funding for whatever reason, the significant amount of it seems to come near the end of the year, when you're trying to get everything else done. But we can really push and see if there is something that we can do through that, or if there's any other grant funding. We're keep an eye on it on an ongoing basis. But if there is a desire to move forward without grant funding, we can also look at doing that, especially for the level 2 chargers that do have a significantly lower cost. That portion of the work, once the conduit is in, my understanding can be done in a pretty quick timeline. Either once we have the funding from whatever source we want it to come from.
Yeah, Councillor Urick and then Councillor Greenfield.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for that, Tori. I really appreciate that. Yeah, what kind of concerns me is that we've been chasing the grant funding for quite a while, and we've been leaving it to the county's hands. And what I find really ironic is that many other municipalities in the county have been successfully getting EV chargers. We have not. And I just find that is not very acceptable. I would be very happy with actually moving forward. I have no problem with still pursuing that. Mayor, Deputy Mayor, you know better where that stands on county than we do, and what the reality of that possibility is. And if it is not very realistic, then I would prefer to be moving ahead and doing it ourselves, because us relying on another party has been very unsuccessful to date.
Do you wish to comment?
Mr. Mayor, the only comment I have is that we haven't really discussed EV chargers at county for a little while now. We haven't had any report or any discussion about potential grants for a while. So I think I would agree with Councillor Urick that we attempt to find the funding to move forward with the chargers on our own. And if grants come through, then I don't know if we could then allocate the grant money back to the chargers if we self-fund them. But I think when we're doing this lot that we should go ahead and put them in.
I think it might be embarrassing to open the lot and have people flocking and looking for the chargers, and they're not there. I pulled up to down at the Twin Arenas in Wasaga Beach, and my gosh, they've got the whole parking lot is lined from one end to the other for one row of EV chargers. We're behind. Councillor Forder.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. It's nice to see this report. One thing that I'm finding that it's omitting is taking an environment first approach. There's no reference to anything like heat island mitigation, tree planting, permeable surfacing. I just like to know, how is this developed of this parking lot? How are we using an environment first approach when we use this as an example? I just maybe like to get a little bit of comment because there's some information missing here with regards to that. So that'd be great. Thank you.
Through your worship, this design did come to council in a couple of different iterations to determine what was council's desire. And some of that had to do with an environmental lens on the project. And so where we ended up was a smaller paved area with space around that would allow for water permeation into the ground. So that was taken into consideration with the design. As infrastructure probably does, we're more focused now on what's actually happening. And so maybe some of that wording didn't necessarily make it into the report. But we were definitely cognizant of not paving the whole property, and having that space where water can get into the ground naturally, and then having the parking space. And so this was kind of that combined, recognizing it was determined that LID was not going to proceed in this area, but that we would still allow for some on-site natural infiltration into the ground, with also having a more traditional parking lot. And so it's kind of that combined approach that council had approved.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you real quickly. And Tori, thanks for that explanation. That makes me feel a lot better. So thank you very much for that.
Councillor Greenfield.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you to Director Victoria. First of all, it's very unfortunate about the EV chargers. They are very common in other municipalities, either municipally supplied, or certainly a lot of the hoteliers are very much into the EV charges. I guess, and I had a couple of discussions about this many years ago with our former CAO, Mr. Armstrong, and that was about the potential of impaired soils on this site. Having done business with the former owners of this site, I did notice some rather unscrupulous manners of disposing of products, and I cannot forget that. I hope there are no environmentally impaired soils that come to light, but I'm just wondering if that should happen, what's that going to do to the progress? I mean, obviously, it's going to slow down things, and I'm just wondering if we have any idea if there are problems found below grade, how long that might take to rectify, and what it would do to the actual getting the site paved this summer.
Tori?
Through your worship, we are aware that this property has contaminated soil on it. We have done extensive geotechnical work, as when we bought the property, obviously the past uses did lend to contaminated soils. We have done our due diligence as part of the engineering process and have identified the required disposal of the soil that meets the provincial requirements with regards to excess soil. And so all that has been already taken into consideration as part of this project. So there shouldn't be any significant changes to what our expectations of what construction looks like because of those contaminated soils. I also just wanted to add an item with regards to an environmental lens on this project. The light standards as a part of this project are solar lights. And so we did decide to add that in as part of the project to further reduce the impacts of it.
Councillor Urick?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. After hearing your and the Deputy Mayor's comments about EV chargers being kind of non-existent in conversation at the county level, I would be willing to make a motion to have staff investigate what it would entail to secure at least two level twos to get started. Level threes are, yes, very expensive, much more expensive, but that would be at least a start. So I would like to see a report that would investigate where we could kind of source that funding from and the time frame of what it would take to do that.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. I think there are a number of different ways that council could go about that. Perhaps that belongs in a notice of motion, directing staff to come up with a different report, knowing the location, the preferred location based on this report. I think probably that's the cleanest, but should council wish to incorporate that in here, we might be able to do that as well, but I think a separate motion would be most appropriate.
Councillor Forder.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a thought, and apologize, this is sort of related. The soil's been identified as contaminated. My question is just regards to like, what if one of the neighboring properties had a veggie garden and stuff? Like, I know it depends on what's in the soil, but are the neighbors notified that kind of like grow at your own risk because there's contaminated soil right next door? Like, how are they aware? Like, would a neighbor necessarily be made aware that they might be having a veggie garden that they feed their families with that is right next to contaminated soil, that there might be a risk there? I just don't know. Sorry if it's not appropriate to ask that question, but I'm just curious to know because there may be very well a risk involved if there's someone growing right next door, for example.
For Your Worship, the province does keep a list of all of the records of site condition, I think is what it is, or like reports that are done with regards to, they look at like the past history. They do sometimes incorporate geotechnical information, and those are available for anyone to access, but they aren't necessarily informed when they move in. Just like when we purchased the property, we were required to do our own due diligence to confirm whether or not it meets our needs.
Councillor Urick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So on the advice of clerk, I will not make that motion. I will do that as a notice of motion. But I do have one more thing to bring up with this, because it's parking adjacent, because this conversation comes around that. In that 2021 report, there was another recommendation that Meaford should engage a consultant to undertake a parking master plan study that reviews and updates all pertinent bylaws, including an assessment of the possibility of removing or reducing off-street minimum parking requirements for new developments, and assess on and off-street parking supply and demand within the downtown core area. Reason I bring this up is we've had this conversation before, and I know parking is a very contentious thing in this community in general. We have many comments from staff in the past that we have ample parking. I don't know the last time we actually had an official parking master plan study done. And does that need to be done? So now that we're going to have this, the library, the one thing that has still not been done that we discussed around budget, I'm not sure how this would fit in budgetary, but is literally just painting lines on many of the streets. So I presume we have a repainting process that we go through, but there are probably many spaces that are not identified, and that feeds the perception that there isn't parking, is because people don't see it recognized and suggested, then they say that there isn't parking. So I think that would also go towards alleviating some of that stress. So a lot of questions in there, I realize, I apologize, but just whether a parking master plan study is in the works, and what about line painting for a possibility moving forward.
Amy.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm happy to help answer that question if I can. You mentioned earlier in this meeting the downtown and harborfront master plan. It is our hope that that master plan, which will be starting on this year, will be sort of a hybridized, planning, engineering, heritage exercise. And so as part of that, I do hope that we'll get at least an overview of our parking situation in the downtown and harborfront area, and potentially ways that we can go forward and improve that scenario if need be. So in the immediate term, that's something that we have underway that we hope will help answer some of those questions.
I believe there was a report that we received in connection with planning. Oh, it was with our official plan rewrite, and the group from Niagara on the Lake just this was just I think it wasn't an open meeting. I think it might have been hosted by the Chamber of Commerce. Made the comment that Meaford doesn't have a parking problem; it has a parking perception problem, and he went on to say that people don't have to walk as far to enter our downtown stores in the municipality of Meaford as they have to walk when they go to the mall in Owen Sound. It's just they don't realize it. So anyway, I think I agree that we should look at it. I wanted to ask you, CAO Everett, whether or not you had some thoughts on how to proceed on getting a couple of these lower level chargers in the Nelson Street parking lot, if you wouldn't mind.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Lots of thoughts. So this project came in under budget. I think there's a contingency amount more around the contaminated soil and getting that removed. So I think just talking to Mr. Dinsmore, I think there's about a $30,000 leftover being under budget for this project. I do know that there once was a time that level 3s were identified as being the chargers of choice. Personally, and just I think best practice, I don't think it's the municipality's responsibility to do quick charges for cars. If somebody wants to get into the commercial operations or commercial business of doing quick charge for cars, as far as I'm like, to me, we should be level 2. They should be strategically placed. So they're in parking lots that typically anticipate the driver being there for an hour and a half or more, and that will give them an ample charge. Save a ton of money, save a lot from the electrical supply aspect of it. I'm not a big proponent of doing a master plan for battery chargers. I think best practice is you want to have them at facilities. You see a lot in arenas because if you're there in an arena, guaranteed you're going to be there for more than an hour. Practice is an hour. So these are just quick, get a charge and carry on. I think Meaford Hall is another location where if you're going to a show, you're going to be there for more than an hour. I'm not so sure that a notice of motion is required in this. I actually think it's okay if you just add it to the recommendation where, you know, potential surplus funds in this project would look at providing level 2 chargers as part of this project. Tori, I'm not sure how many chargers were identified originally for 28 Nelson.
Through your worship, there were 2. And when we came forward with that information, we were at the time looking at level 3s because the funding actually made more sense. But recognizing that there potentially is no funding and just the shift in electric vehicle charging in general, we had identified in 2024 that 4 level 2 electric vehicle charging stations would cost $55,000. Obviously, pricing may have changed. We'll have to update that. But that was 2 years ago. And there was some cost with regards to engineering and some hydro upgrades. So we can look at what's needed on this site. The conduit will already be in the ground. So that's something that we will have already done. And we already have done some preliminary engineering that we might not do that whole amount. So there could be a potential that we do 2 or 4. The level 2s normally come in pairs. So that's why we were looking at the 4 versus 2 when we put the report together.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess I'll play the waffle king. I'll go back to making a direction to say, yeah, if there's going to be a surplus and if we could possibly direct that towards EV chargers, that would be great. That would be my recommendation.
And go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. Then I would just suggest that a motion an amending motion be added to add a 3rd clause to that effect. Perfect.
So you are moving it. Is there a seconder? Councillor Greenfield. All in favor? Any opposed? Then that is unanimous. And if we can just prevail on you to amend that as we pass it here?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. And we will need a vote on the main motion with the
Yes.
amendment as well.
So now on the main motion, mover and a seconder? Well, we're already there. All in favor? Any opposed? And it's carried unanimously, and thank you. We can move on here. We're ready actually to move into committee of the whole at 3:09 p.m. And the first item we have here is, I think I need a vote to move into committee of the whole. All in favor? And I guess yeah, mover and second. You're moving it, Harley's seconding it. We're all in favor. Any opposed? It's done. Thank you. So the first item here is the recommendation that Committee of the Whole recommend Council of the Municipality of Meaford, 1, authorizes the Director of Community Services to execute an amending agreement for the extension of the 2016 Facility Use Agreement until December 31, 2026, including the waiver of seasonal dockage fees for the 2026 season. And this is for extension of facility use agreement with Sale Georgian Bay. Mover and a seconder for this, Councilor Urick and Deputy Mayor. Discussion. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just had one question slightly related to the report. Mr. Carbert, the dredging that's going to happen in Meaford Harbor, is that going to interfere at all with Sale Georgian Bay and the lessons that they provide for the kids over the summer?
To the Deputy Mayor through your worship, yes, we're not sure the extent right now. The manager of Cemeteries, Harbor, and Memorial Park has notified Sale Georgian Bay that we will hopefully be proceeding with the dredging this summer and that there'll be slight disruption, but we will work with them to minimize that. We're still going through the approvals process on the dredging, but we've selected a window that hopefully minimizes that disruption to their sailing school programs for the 2026 season.
Any other questions? That motion included the clause, direct staff to enter into negotiations with Sale Georgian Bay for their continued operation at the Meaford Harbor. So all in favor? Any opposed? And that is passed unanimously. The next recommendation is that Committee of the Whole recommend Council of the Municipality of Meaford, 1, approve option 1, Marshall Street East vacant lot for the future site of the Meaford Community Garden, and 2, direct staff to enter into negotiations with the Meaford Community Garden Group for the development of an agreement for the use of municipal property. A mover and seconder. I'm going to go with Councillor Urick and Councillor Ennis. Discussion on this. I think that we are in a different place. Go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And yes, I believe that we are, having heard the deputation today. And I'll look to Margaret to tell me whether we need a notice of motion or whether we can amend this particular report to suggest that we request a report from staff to understand what actions may be required to go forward with the, I'll call it the Muir Street property, and what the costs might be, recognizing that that would probably be a budget line for the 2027 budget. Now that we understand that the community gardens has a temporary location for 2026, we have a wee bit of time to look at next steps for the Muir Street property.
And sorry, through to the Deputy Mayor, through your worship, just before we go down that avenue, I think the work that needs to be completed with potentially moving to that location around surveys, easement agreements, that is work that should be completed in 2026 so that we minimize disruption on the 2027 season. So if we go through budget and we start this work 11 months from now, it would potentially disrupt them actually moving there in 2027. I think that the surveys and legal agreements we're looking at months. So I think if the motion wants to direct us to move to that location, we're open to that. But I think going ahead with us funding our share of that being the legal survey work upwards of that $20,000. That is something that we should start right now so that we can have them move on site next year.
I may follow up, Mr. Mayor. Do you require additional communication from the Blue Water District School Board before we go ahead with the legal and the survey that you've suggested?
To the Deputy Mayor, through your worship, I don't think we're going to make a lot of progress with the school board for what we need as the municipality. The community garden group is working with the school board to address the programming needs and getting the students across from the schoolyard to the community or potential community garden. Where we had originally reached out to the school board was for the parking and the pedestrian access. So what we deal with on this site is that there is no direct pedestrian crossing. The sidewalk ends at the school, and the patrons that are not school related have to walk across the school board property to get to this location. And the school board had no appetite for an easement agreement or anything legal to formalize that relationship. So that's where the Knox Presbyterian Church came into play. Likewise, they had no interest in vehicles using the service lane on the south side of the school to access that property. So this is where the Knox Presbyterian Church comes into play for the pedestrian access, and for the vehicular access, the McDonald's furniture property. But I think with the school board, it's going to be a very difficult conversation to move forward again with.
Councilor Eric?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I totally applaud the community gardens and the great work that they do. Very necessary and very, very generous. I guess my question is just about it being on Muir Street with the plans, of utilizing this as serviceable industrial lands. We have no idea what's going to be in there eventually. Do we see any possibility that that is not going to be a great environment for a community garden? I don't want it to kind of impose on the gardens whatever we end up doing in the future. So I just presume that's been taken into consideration.
Go ahead.
To Councillor Yerg, your worship, this was one of the locations that at the initial meeting with the community garden, the CAO myself identified this as a potential location, recognizing the development of those industrial lands. It was the thought of staff that this could form a buffer zone between the industrial uses and the existing church and school. So if we were to design, if we didn't have the kind of immediate need of the community garden to relocate, I think it was the intent of the CAO that we would be looking at designating these lands in this area and the development of the property as an open space, park, or something along those lines that would allow us to proceed with this in a different way in the future. Our official plan speaks to community gardens being located in these open space agreements and license agreements, everything that we're proposing for Blue Dolphin Pool. But the easier part about Blue Dolphin Pool lot or the Marshall Street lot is that it's already been designated an open space, and everything's playgrounds are nearby, washrooms are nearby, sidewalks. We're just not there yet with the Muir Street property. I'm not sure how quick we're going to move forward up there, so I don't know if that's a year, 3 years, 5 years. So we are proposing a licensing agreement just for that portion of the property that's identified on the map to allow us to continue to build that site and then take these needs into consideration through the development of the industrial lands.
Any other questions? Well, we have altered the document.
Thank you, Your Worship. At this time, we don't have a motion to replace option 2 with option 1, if that is what I'm understanding. That is the wish of council. So we would need a motion to do that.
Councillor Ennis?
Thank you, through Mr. Mayor. I would support moving that. I'm also just thinking, do we need to include in the motion direction to find a storage space in the meantime, or is that something staff can just take away and do? And if we should include it in the motion, should we include a timeline?
To Councillor Ennis, through your worship, I think that should be in the motion to direct us to find that space, only because I meet with multiple community groups each week and they're always looking for storage space or opportunities. So I think it's much easier for me to facilitate this if I have that direction from council.
Okay.
I would be willing to propose those amendments, remove those amendments.
And is there a seconder? Deputy Mayor, okay. Any further discussion? Councillor Bell?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. So it's perfect from my fellow councillor. Can we just waive the procedural bylaw and give direction right here, right now to include that without going through the step of a notice of motion?
Yes, I think so.
Yes, through your worship, to Councillor Greenfield, at this time, we're amending the motion and the committee of the whole report to replace option 1 with option 2 and provide staff direction to look for storage.
Okay.
I will note that this report, as usual, would come back to the council table in 2 weeks. So
Okay.
this is the first time council's receiving this report. It will then go to full council for approval. So a 2-step process.
And I don't want to muddy the waters, but I'm going to ask our Director of Development, does this necessitate actually laying out the main entrance to the park, the industrial park, in order to identify the location of the community garden and the access to it?
Thank you for the question, Your Worship. Do you mean for the future sort of industrial development, we
Yes.
would identify where the entrance would be located?
Yes, I just like, I don't think we want to see a road broken into off of Mere Street, which is not going to be the road that we intend to use as to enter this development industrial park.
I can certainly get Brady to help me out with that, but at this stage, I can confirm that the comprehensive development vision for these industrial lands is not set out yet. So we'll have to work with the county on an entrance if we are intending to service off of or enter off of Gray Road 7, but I'll defer to Brady.
I thought it was entering off of Mere Street. Oh, okay.
Thank you, Your Worship. And I can answer that. That is the reason why we believe we need the easement access for the vehicles from the McDonald's furniture property right now. There would be an opportunity for us to develop an entrance off of Muir Street and run it across to this property, but it would be significantly more expensive to build it to even a basic standard than I believe the cost to get the easement across the McDonald's furniture property at this time. There is opportunity in the future to develop it a proper entrance off of whatever is designed. And we didn't want to kind of, as you say, incur these costs for us to rip that entrance out or that entrance road out in a couple of years. And I know that was one of the first requests from the community group was to build that off of the community or to build the community garden entrance off of Muir Street or off of the road allowance that is just adjacent to the McDonald's furniture property. But as I said, I feel that's significantly more expensive than the easement agreement, and through the negotiations, the community garden group has indicated that they would fundraise for the parking lot area as well.
Thank you. That clarifies things for, I think, those of us concerned about the industrial park. So thank you. Are you ready to vote then? All in favor? Any opposed? And that's carried unanimously then. That's the motion to, so now we are going to vote again on the entire package. Is everybody satisfied? You know what we're doing here? I do. So all in favor then? Any opposed? And that is carried. Thank you very much. The next item is the recommendation that Committee of the Whole receive a report on the 2025 long-term debt update for information purposes. Can I have a mover and seconder, Councillor Greenfield and Councillor Forder? Discussion on this? I would just like to say this is excellent to see this report and the one that follows it. It's, I don't believe we've seen reports like this in the past, or certainly not the recent past, and I congratulate everyone for any discussion on that, Councillor Bell?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So we're talking about the long-term debt?
Yes.
Okay, so it's fantastic where we're at. Been on council long enough, some of us to know that we see numbers like 8 million almost get really, really high over a course of time. This municipality has been a good money manager. And I think that the province also recognizes that we know how to handle money. We've made applications many times, and the province needs to see that a municipality knows what to do with money and how to manage it. And so when you go asking for loans and asking for grants and things, they take a look at our finances and they say, I think you folks know how to look after money, and I think we can maybe move in a direction. It's not that we have been squandering money and doing it the wrong way. We've been doing it the right way. So it's very nice to see right now where we're at. Not quite $1.25 million. And it's a nice position to be in today. And I fear for the upcoming council that with some of the things that we are transpiring to do, the number may have to increase. But that's what progress does bring. And at this point, even though the province does calculate where we can go to max out, what's it say in our report? A little over 7 million. And what do we got? 17% of that being used. We're in great shape. So our debt, and we've got savings. So we're doing it right. We've been doing it right. And it's nice to see, at least today when I read this report, where we're at. I feel comfortable with it. So thank you to the work, basically the staff, because they've really been managing it and managing it well.
Councillor Greenfield.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to note that we have a list of 11 debts, and I think it's quite interesting that 7 of those will be paid off over the next 2 years. And I think that's good news.
CAO Everett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple points I just want to raise. So the debt capacity that we have is good. One thing that I will say is, and to Councillor Bell's point, sometimes when we have good debt capacity remaining, it's actually a hindrance of getting grant funding. And the reality is it's right. The province will look and say, like, you've got some debt that you can use. So unfortunately, it's sort of counterintuitive. You would think that those municipalities that were managing their money well would actually go to the top, but it's actually flipped. Which then I'll just go into my next piece is Meaford is, however, a municipality that has a lot of aging infrastructure that needs to be replaced. And one would maybe suggest that, not using debt has let that infrastructure age and is getting to a point of needing like repair ASAP rather than proactively. So it's that fine balance of managing it, but also finding that sweet spot where we're replacing the infrastructure that we need, which ideally replace it before it breaks. This fantastic team that we've built here is I think that's what we're looking at bringing forward in the future, is finding that sweet spot where we're good with getting grant funding and getting that federal and provincial funding coming to us, but still being able to manage the books and manage the infrastructure replacement, I think is the goal here. So not to rain on the parade, but this is a snapshot of a report that I think gives council and the public a really good view of where we are today. Thank you.
Thank you. So we voted on that. Call a vote. All in favor? Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. Once you go down a few rabbit holes, why you soon forget where you are. So the next one is very similar. The recommendation that Committee of the Whole receive financial update Q1 for information purposes. Mover and a seconder for that, Deputy Mayor and Councillor Forder. Thank you. Any comments on or questions on this report? Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a related question to Director Dinsmore. I'm wondering at some point if we could see an update on our reserves.
Thank you. And through you, Mr. Mayor, there is a 2025 Reserve and Reserve Fund report coming in the next couple of meetings. I have, similar to that long-term debt one, I have an investment one, the 2025 surplus. Like, there's a number of 2025 reports coming. I just didn't want to bring them all at once and have a full finance day. So that one is on the docket.
And just as a follow-up, Mr. Mayor, I just heard you use the word surplus. Is there a surplus from 2025?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we haven't completed our year-end audit, so we have a potential surplus.
That's very guarded. So I'll call the vote on this if there's no more questions. All in favor? Any opposed? That's carried unanimously. And again, thank you for those two excellent reports. Now we'll move into the update from members appointed to County Council, committees and local boards, and I'll invite or at least Deputy Mayor Kivity to give us a report on county business.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We haven't actually met at county since we last met here, but we do meet this Thursday. So we'll have a report then. And I do have a report from the conference I attended last week, the Great Lakes St. Lawrence Cities Initiative, but it's a little bit long. So perhaps instead of reading it, I'll provide it to Margaret and she can include it in communications for the next round. So we'll do it that way. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Other boards, Councillor Yurick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As I missed the last council meeting, I didn't get a chance to do the Grace Island Conservation Authority Board meeting notes then, so I will report that at the April 22nd meeting, the board received an update on the 2026 strategic work plan and everything is on target. There was another report regarding the amalgamation with CAO Lantier reporting that there are still concerns regarding local governance. GSCA will be part of the Lake Huron Regional Conservation Authority, which will include over 75 municipalities in 12 counties. Overall oversight will be a new Ontario Provincial Conservation Agency, and the LHRCA, which is the name of replacing GSCA, board will be comprised of 15 to 20 individuals from upper tier government bodies. It's expected the board members will be selected by representation based on population, which means some areas will have 2 or 3 board members, while our watershed will have 1 representative each from Grey and Bruce counties. At this point, no information is available as to what role, if any, Conservation Ontario will play moving forward. There will be local watershed councils announced for regional representation, but no one knows yet how these will work or what kind of representation they will provide. Better news, the Haibu land dispute, where a local real estate agent tried to claim and fraudulently sell a parcel of land within the Haibu catchment area, was settled with the GSCA successfully defending its position of ownership and being awarded $22,884 in damages for legal costs. And finally, the board heard a report from the 2026 Environmental Planning Department. There was a notable decline in planning applications across all municipalities due to market and economic influences, while permit applications slightly increased due to several municipal and utility projects, such as fiber internet service expansions. The good news is the overall permit review timeline average was 9 days. So GSCA's review process does not impede the permitting process, which the province claims is one of the reasons supporting amalgamating the conservation authorities. And finally, after the GSCA meeting, the board had a tour of the GSCA administration building. Renovations are nearing completion on time and on budget, and staff expect to move back into that building on May 31st.
Thank you. Are there any other reports? Okay, then we can move out of Committee of the Whole at 3:33 p.m. Can I have a motion to do that? Councillor Yurick, Deputy Mayor. Pardon me. And we'll move on to councillor motions. And I believe, Councillor Yurick, you have one?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And this is in recognition of the farmerettes and trying to get them more recognition, education, inclusion. So Whereas during the Second World War, more than 40,000 young Canadian women volunteered as members of the Farmerettes, formerly known as the Ontario Farm Service Force, to address critical agricultural labor shortages and ensure food production for Canada and allied forces. And whereas many of these young women, including several from the Georgian Bay region and the former townships that now form part of the municipality of Meaford, were part of the Ontario Farm Service Force and served on farms throughout Ontario, contributing directly to the war effort through physically demanding agricultural labor. And whereas the contributions of the Farmerettes have historically received limited public recognition compared to other wartime service roles, despite their essential role in sustaining Canada's food supply during the war, and whereas increasing public awareness and formal educational recognition of the Farmerettes would honor their legacy and provide meaningful historical context regarding the role of women and rural communities in Canada's wartime history, now therefore be resolved that Council of the Municipality of Meaford respectfully requests that the Government of Canada and the Government of Ontario take steps to increase national and provincial visibility and commemoration of the Farmerettes' contributions during the Second War through public history initiatives, heritage recognition, and commemorative programming. And be it further resolved, the Council requests the Government of Ontario through the Ontario Ministry of Education and the Government of Canada through the Department of Canadian Heritage work with curriculum developers and educational partners to incorporate the history and contributions of the Farmerettes into elementary and secondary school curricula across Canada. And be it further resolved that this resolution be circulated to the Government of Canada, the Government of Ontario, the Ontario Ministry of Education, the Department of Canadian Heritage, local members of Parliament, members of Provincial Parliament, the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, and all Ontario municipalities for support.
Is there a seconder for the motion? Councillor Bell? Discussion? Councillor Bell?
I want to thank you, Councillor Uhrig. Obviously, Rob, you were very moved by that presentation of what transpired in one sector and the activity of the Second World War. When you first mentioned that you were going to bring forward a notice of motion on this, I cracked open my own personal library on volunteers during the Second World War. And I was going to bring in some of those big tabletop things today, but I thought I'd just be too cluttered on my desk. So I'll let your imaginations go. Women in the workforce changed women for the future back then. Men were overseas, men were off the farm. Women went into industry. There's a poster of a gal with a head bandana on, had a blue work shirt. She had her sleeves rolled up. She was flexing her bicep. And the caption in World War II was, "We can do it." That poster was generated by the Westinghouse Corporation to get women to join in their war effort in their factories. Another well-known poster was Rosie the Riveter. The lady's picture was actually of a gal whose name was Rosie, and she was working in a shipyard with a big, heavy riveter. What a heavy industry job that would have been. Canada had a very well-known picture, and it was the Bren gun girl. And her photograph was taken when she was on break at the Inglis plant in Toronto when she just finished assembling a Bren gun. Women served in so many areas that this country still owes a great debt to the volunteer women who stepped up in a nation's time of need. Women served in the Red Cross. They served as bankers, truck drivers, munitions factory assemblers. And there's one thing that I discovered when I was reading for the background comments. There were women who were volunteered and they were selected, and they worked at a place called Camp X. And Camp X was located in Oshawa, just off the shores of Lake Ontario, And those ladies were trained in espionage, and they also helped with code breaking. And history says that one of the ladies that trained there was actually captured in France, and her life was taken for being a spy. So the debt that we owe to a generation past of ladies, like what you have witnessed here with the farmerettes, it's uncalculable what those gals did back then. That generation has often been referred to as the greatest generation. A baby boomer like myself, I've lived a life in benefit because of that generation and what they went through. So I'm very touched that you've been touched by this knowledge of Canadian history. And I'd like to encourage you to move forward with your last paragraphs to see how far you can go with that. But I'd like to pick up on the line where you say, whereas just before, now therefore be resolved. I would like to see, for your awareness right here in this municipality, that the Meaford Museum has a showcase of military items. And it's easy to pick up a canteen or an old rifle or a series of medals. But I think that at the Meaford Museum, when you talk about having an educational background, I think that a very nicely framed scroll mentioning that outpouring of effort by the women and what you've noted here, just using the farmerettes, I think we can talk about doing things that were non-traditional. They're out of the home. They have went and they served quietly, and they served dutifully, and our society benefited from them. And I think that if there was an engagement with the Meaford Museum, we could do what your whereas says about education, because you are correct. Most people don't know their Canadian history, and this is a part of it, a significant part of it. And I am thankful that you brought this forward. I think it's great that it's being talked about, and you're right, long time overdue for Canadians who could stand even in the Meaford Museum and read that and say, wow, I didn't know that they did such things back then. And I think it could be added. And on the latter part, I'm going to raise my hand to support you moving forward. And I do wish you well on it. But I think that it's a very big subject. And I believe that the government of Canada took a look and said, where do we draw the line of recognition when there were so many? I wish you well, and I hope you do something at the Meaford Museum. It would be, in my mind, a spot for people to stand and read and learn. And we might even find women send in a letter and say, I was one of them. And they would add that. What a fantastic thing to get someone who still may be of age to put it to paper and let us know. So thank you for doing this, and thank you for the latitude, Mr. Mayor.
And thank you for the history lesson. Thank you very much. Maybe you should respond, and then I'll give.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you very much for the support, Tony. I really appreciate that. And again, I'm just trying to raise, Bonnie Sitter has done the lion's share of work on this, who authored the book about the farmerettes. We're hoping to have her here in September. Culture Foundation is putting something in Meaford Hall for the farmerettes, and we're hoping to have her here. Two things that really kind of spearheaded this. One was MPP Paul Vickers, agricultural lad from our hometown, knew nothing about them. The CO at the Army base, when I was up there, I asked him, he knew nothing about them. And I just thought that was a pretty sad indictment of the effort that they put in, and that needs to get changed somehow. So thank you for that. And we really need, and I think the Meaford Museum is a great idea. They are actually, I'm sorry, Bonnie did send me an email saying that they did get a stamp a few years ago, and the Ontario Trust, the Department of Ontario that arranges historical plaques, is planning a farmerette plaque, which will likely be placed in the St. Catharines area. Looks like it'll probably happen in October. And it occurred to me that we have our own tidbits in town who would probably even look to do something about this as well. So thank you.
Councillor Greenfield, you were next.
Thanks, your worship, and thanks to Councillor Urick and Councillor Bell for their comments, all very interesting. I especially hope that our school curriculum can pick up on something like this. I would find studies concerning the farmerettes much more interesting than some of the history I took many, many years ago about Henry VIII going through his 7 wives and the Crusades, which were kind of lost causes right from day one. I don't think agricultural contributions to not only the Second World War, but the First World War One and even the Anglo-African War or the Boer War back at in 1900, 1899. I don't think anybody realizes the contribution that agriculture from our country and other countries contributed. I mean, we'll see old saying, armies march on their bellies, and doesn't mean they just crawled along. They needed nourishment. No, there's a lot of the farm history. Thanks to the farmerettes for coming to our area. It was terrific of them. Back during the Second World War, some of the farm machinery companies, they weren't selling any products because everything steel went into the war effort. And some of the companies like Minneapolis Moline and the Oliver Corporation went around to farms and picked up especially the old horse walking plows and took them to the factories. Any kind of used equipment that the farmers could do without, they went around, picked them up, took them to the factories, make something out of it, and things like that were maybe a tiny importance, but definitely an importance to the war effort and the result. So we've missed a lot of really good, important history, in my opinion, and I'm hoping that this will maybe get the wheels turning to bring a lot of it to light especially in the school systems. I think the kids like learning things like this. I think they are interested in it and they'll find it a refreshment to some of their curriculum.
Any other comments, questions? I'm going to call the vote. All in favor? Any opposed? That's passed unanimously. The next recommendation is simply be resolved that Council of the Municipality of Meaford hereby adopt the minutes of the council meetings held on April 27th, 2026, and the closed meeting held on April 13th, 2026. Can I have a mover and seconder? Councillor Greenfield and Councillor Ennis, thank you. All in favor? Thank you. Any opposed? So that is also unanimous. Anything on the communications list that you want to raise? Or the correspondence list? Then at this point in time, I'm going to move that we, or recommended that the Council of the Municipality of Meaford does now go into a closed session at 3:48 p.m. with the CAO, the clerk, deputy CAO and director of corporate services, and the purchasing, risk, and insurance agent in attendance to discuss litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or local board. And that's under Open Meeting Exemption E of Section 239(2) of the Municipal Act 2001. And following this closed session, I will return and report out of that meeting. So we are temporarily adjourned. Sorry. I need a mover and seconder. Councillor Yuri, Councillor Greenfield, all in favor? Any opposed? It was unanimous. Reporting out of the closed session with the CAO, clerk, deputy CAO, and director of corporate services, and the purchasing risk and insurance agent in attendance. Only the item listed in the agenda was discussed, and no direction was provided to staff. Now we have a confirming bylaw, and the recommendation is be it resolved that bylaw 2026-41 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the meeting of the Council of the Corporation of the Municipality of Meaford be taken as read a first, second, and third time and finally passed. Can I have a mover and seconder? Councillor Urick and Councillor Greenfield. Any discussion, questions? All in favor? Any opposed? And that is passed unanimously. And with that, I will declare our meeting adjourned.